Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining. This is Jake Sussman. I'm the Director of Customer Experience for KaiNexus, and welcome to our Fall Updates webinar. This is the second webinar in our platform update series, and we're really glad you could make it. So in our last webinar, it was actually the Summer Updates webinar, which was last October. Since then, we've released a bunch of really great new features, including KaiNexus 2.1, which was a major release for us. That actually was announced at our 2016 user conference. So today I'm joined by Greg Jacobson, CEO, co-founder, and head of product at KaiNexus. Greg's going to take us through the Fall Updates webinar today. If there are any questions, we'll be keeping an eye on those throughout the webinar. We'll address those at the end. So with that, I'll hand it over to Greg. Greg?
Thanks so much, Jake. I can't tell you how excited I am. I think I've had about 2 liters of coffee to prepare for this, and we're going to have a lot of fun. So without further ado, let's jump in. All right, so we've got a couple of different things. Actually, before we jump right in, I'm so excited I'm right into the platform. Let's go ahead and go into a couple of these slides with regard to our agenda. Jump the gun there, huh, Jake? So we're going to do about 25 minutes today, and at the end there'll be about 5 minutes of questions. And of course, we will follow up with a recording of this sent to you in case you want to show it with your team and or go over any of these features. And of course, you can always reach out to Jake and his team. They're happy to do any specific questions or any kind of one-on-one sessions with you. We're going to talk about 10 of what we consider the best things that we released in the fall. As you know, we released dozens and sometimes hundreds of things every quarter, so it always is tricky to bring it down to 10 to highlight. But these are the 10. So we're going to talk about huge improvements to charts, some slight display and design improvements to boards. We made some great improvements to reports as well. 2 really cool new advanced add-on features that it's really going to be the first time we've had add-ons here at KaiNexus, and so look forward to showing you those. A brand new view called Kanban, as well as badges are super cool. We took about 3 years worth of feedback on badges and made what I would consider a really amazing badges update, as well as Markdown Editor and some really neat stuff that came out of an innovation week here at KaiNexus with regard to some advances in search capabilities. So let's get into the product. All right, so the first thing I want to show you is charts. And charts pre this release had to be connected either with an improvement or a project. And it took a ton of work, but we think we did a great job in making charts standalone. So now you'll notice over here on the left nav bar, charts have their own place, and you can actually click on this area and search all of your charts. Let's take a look at this chart right here, for example. We'll go ahead and minimize that left nav bar, and let's even minimize the list of charts. But we're taking a look at a Pareto chart. And so we made lots of small improvements to charts, things like adding a y-axis and being able to do your labels, and even getting into being able to put a detail and even locations of charts. But we really made charts their own element. And what we're seeing is that it's creating a huge amount of value to taking your charts out of Excel spreadsheets, taking them out of your shared drives that no one looks at, and putting them right next to your improvement work. And with these added things like being able to create a team, looking at the dates, even attaching relevant files or links, but even more so to be able to have a conversation in the comment section about a charts, what we're seeing is that people are describing this as their data becoming interactive. And our vision is that improvement work shouldn't just do improvement work to do it. It really should be affecting your KPIs, your key performance indicators, and it should be affecting your data, and therefore your data should be viewed right next to your improvement work. This is really creating the foundation and the platform where we have lots of great feedback from you guys, but lots of really interesting vision from a roadmap perspective of where we're going to be taking charts, and that's charts. We made a really big yet subtle design change to our snapshot for our reports area. So I'm just going to go ahead and minimize the locations over there. We're getting a lot of confusion about how do you select the date range and then what did the dates actually affect. And so we made that really front and center now. So now the date range that you're actually looking at for your snapshot area is at the very top. And right now with just a kind of a click of a button, so let's say we're looking at a 3-month view, I can see exactly how many improvements and projects were submitted within the last 3 months, and I can actually drill into those by status. But then also really easily, I can see down on the snapshot area right here where I'm looking at not only a snapshot of the activity, but the engagement as well as the impact. And then, of course, you can drill into all the normal reports down here. And we like to think about reports as what kind of activity are you doing, what kind of engagement in the organization do you have, and then what kind of impact does that have. And so we've actually put all of those charts kind of categorized in that way. That's reports snapshot redesign. Let's take a quick look at the board improvements that we've made. So I'm going to go to this really neat board we made here called the prioritization board. And we've added a lot of features that let you control not only the title, background, and text, but also add this left title as well to your cards. And so you can now control the background as well as the text on both your top header as well as your left header as well. Jake, are you seeing people use that feature?
Actually, we are, Greg. We're seeing some really interesting combinations when it comes to the titles. Some customers are using card customizations to visually indicate the difference between project and improvement cards, as well as to better call out improvements and projects that are in to-do, doing, and done statuses, just for that added visual indication.
It's great. I mean, our vision with boards in general is we want to get your paper bulletin boards, off the paper system into an electronic system. We have a lot of our customers that are putting up plasma screens. The benefit to that isn't just, oh, well, it looks cool, but the benefit all of a sudden becomes that improvement work can actually be shared and collaborated across locations that aren't physically next to each other. You can log in, if you will, and check up on an update on a board. As a PI person, you can be in 40 locations in a matter of an hour and see, well, where do I really need to go today? Who really needs the most help? And being able to kind of customize and do more things with your boards is putting us in the direction of that. So I talked a little bit about add-ons, so I want to give a little description of what I mean by that. So before the 2.1 release, when you purchased and used KaiNexus, everyone was using the same platform. There wasn't a premium version or a basic version. Everyone had all the same feature sets. What we've realized over the last year or two, though, is that we have some customers that are really pushing us in different areas and in some ways adding a lot of complexity to the product, and in other ways just trying to push us in feature sets that some of our customers don't really need or want. And so we made the decision to do what we call add-ons, where people, if these features are interesting, they can purchase them, we can turn them on, start configuring it, and use it. But if a customer is not interested in that feature, they don't need to kind of take the complexity or the technical burden or the cost burden of developing that feature. And so we released 2 add-ons, and I've configured a different instance over here. So we're going to flip over to our first add-on, which is called Milestones. I've configured an example of Milestones here for a new certification project. So what Milestones is, it's essentially a way to kind of create checks at different steps in a project or improvement life cycle, if you will. So people are using this to do classes. So for instance, if someone wants to get lean committee approval to do a project improvement as part of their class, or maybe they need to get a finance approval. It's really kind of customizing the workflow, if you will, of an improvement. So here we have an example of a new certification project. This is, for example, an A3 that this person's going to do for their green belt certification, but it needs to get a lean review. it needs to kind of go outside the normal cycle. Lean people need to go ahead and check off on it. So you can see that this has been checked, and now we're waiting for the lean facilitator handoff to take a look at this. And so these are, once again, completely configurable by you guys. This would be something that if you're trying to do something and we can't quite do it, you'll work with Jake, figure out, is this an add-on that would actually solve the problem, and then we'll configure it, test it all out, make sure it works the way it works, and you'll kind of be off to the races.
Yep, and Greg, we're seeing a lot of really great use cases around milestones. One that stands out is incorporating problem-solving thinking like PDCA structure to milestones. And this is a way to institute project management disciplines in kind of a subtle way. In other words, some customers are creating a plan, do, check, and act milestones with different approval criteria for each one, and really seeing some great results with those.
What I love about the PDCA kind of insight that some of our customers had immediately when we released Milestones at the user conference is that sometimes we know exactly how a feature is going to be used, and other times we know that there's potential here and we think how it's going to be used, but then people end up using it different ways and push us in different directions. And so as with everything, we're constantly iterating here at KaiNexus. Then we released Milestones back in November, and we've actually already done our first pass on kind of edits and changes to make Milestones better. So it's really a journey. We're going on this journey with you guys and figuring out, how can we leverage technology to really scale your CI efforts at your organization, and that kind of back and forth and that kind of partnership we have is a testament to that. Okay, great. So that's Milestones, and let's go into the second add-on. We call it Advanced ROI. I configured another instance over here to show that. Advanced ROI is really kind of the first step in a direction where we have a number of organizations that really want intense specificity into being able to track impact of not only improvements but projects. And so kind of in KaiNexus, you could do things like, well, this is a one-time cost savings of $1,000, or this saved the organization $10,000 recurring. But what people wanted to do is to be able to say, this actually saved me, I don't know, $1,000 a year from May of 2016 to October of 2019. They wanted to do a range, and so now we have the ability, if you kind of activate the Advanced ROI add-on, to be able to not only do a range, for example, here's an amount from a starting month to an ending month, but actually even to do a customized range. So this is almost like an amortization, if you will, of the benefit or the impact that an improvement or project has, and each one of these entries can be a different number. So maybe in May it saved you $1,000, but in June it saved you $900, or maybe you're tracking it forward and actually going to go back and put the actuals in. You can now do all that stuff with the Advanced ROI add-on. We've also added products and resources. We have a number of customers that were saying, hey, you allow us to track time savings, but we actually want to track that we did this improvement and we're actually able to generate more products. So like a healthcare product might be, we're able to see more visits in a clinic, or we have a manufacturing, we're able to make more of this widget, or we have a mining company, for instance, using it. We're able to extract more ore because of this improvement. And same thing on the product side, it's on the resource side. We're using less paper, we're using less electricity. So you can now track a number of your products and the value it is to your company, as well as resources. One of the things you may have noticed when I brought up the custom was the USD. So we now have almost about 25% of our customers are international customers, and many of them are tracking different currencies, and they were really kind of hamstrung by the fact that we were tracking only one currency, US dollars. So now, if tracking multiple currencies is important to you, you'll definitely want to get the Advanced ROI, and you'll be able to specify which currencies your organization is using. And this is the beginning of Advanced ROI. We actually have several different iterations coming up right now that will probably be coming out in the next months that's going to continue to improve on the Advanced ROI feature. All right. enough about that. Let's move over into calendar. So we built really the kind of the first iteration of calendar. This is a calendar overlay and then putting your improvements and projects and tasks in calendar mode, right? So you kind of saw things in detail mode or saw things kind of in that list view, but what if people were giving us feedback? What if I could actually just see when things were due or when things were going to be occurring in a calendar view? And so we have added that. So you can access it through the left nav bar, check out calendars. And then this was probably one of the most requested things throughout 2016, and that's badges. We have officially rolled out, I think, a really excellent way to do badges. We've made this customizable. So by customizable, I mean, here we're looking at a list of people, and here are their badges that they've been awarded. Badges kind of think of as accomplishments in the system. So you can now customize what your icon is. So we'll have some stock ones if you want, but if you guys want to design your own icons and your own badges, you can do that. We can upload them to the system, but you can then also figure out what actions in the system will grant badges or not grant badges. So if you want to, let's say, give a badge for someone when they put in their first improvement or their 10th or their 25th, you'll be able to do that. And we did something really cool. You can even do it like kind of like a frequent flyer status. So what I mean by that is if you get so many miles when you're on American, you're in the gold or the silver kind of platform, if you will. You can do that here in KaiNexus. So you can grant a badge if someone submits an improvement every month or every year. But if they don't do that, then the badge is kind of automatically taken away. You can also do badges that are grantable by badge administrators. So if you guys are interested in badges, we kind of go through this badge configuration process, set up some administrators, and they, based on certain actions that they want to award a badge, they're able to do that.
And Greg, here again, our customers are really leading the way. We're seeing some customers use badge types in a lot of really innovative ways. The three, I'd say, most common use cases for badge configurations are one, to recognize employees who have submitted some of their first ideas. We're also seeing badges being used to manage educational initiatives. And then the third type is to award those top performers to really call out people who have gone above and beyond and motivate others to be like them.
Super fun, super interested and to see how people use badges over this year, and really they're a lot of fun. I mean, if you kind of think about the badges and motivation, we talk a lot about intrinsic motivation and of course there's extrinsic motivation, but while I think that badges probably are an extrinsic motivator, they're probably the right type of extrinsic motivator. They kind of give you a little bit of dopamine release when you grant the badge, but it also, recognition is really important. Recognition can mean more to somebody than kind of a monetary value.
That's exactly right. And just one thing to call out on badges, as Greg mentioned, that is a module that our team has to set up and activate for you. So if you are interested in leveraging badges, reach out to us, either myself or support@kainexus.com, and we can get those turned on and configured properly for you.
Next, I want to talk about a new view we've added to any list you're looking at. So everyone knows and loves kind of what we refer to as the detail view, where the improvements are down the left side, and when you click on it, the details of the improvement show up on the right. And then, of course, we all know and love list view, which kind of looks like a spreadsheet or an Excel spreadsheet. Added another view called Kanban view, and so now you can see your improvements in kind of that Kanban style, where every status is a different column. Some people really just like kind of looking at their improvement work. It does show kind of bottlenecks and where things are at different times. So I look forward to kind of seeing this view kind of permeate its way through the product and us adding more and more features to it. But check that view out if you haven't discovered it yet. All right, we're going to do two more. We're on number 8 out of 10. It's been very exciting. So I'm going to show you a improvement here called part presentations. And what we've done is we've added the ability to format the text within different fields. And so here I've formatted the text with bullets. And if you guys are interested in having these fields be formatable, is that a word, Jake?
It is.
Then reach out to Jake, and he can tweak some levers behind the scenes and give you guys this editor. And we've done it in a really cool way. It's called Markdown, but what it does is it plays really nicely with Excel downloads and in a bunch of other areas. But you can see this Markdown, then you can end up kind of going into a split view to see what it'll end up looking like. But this works like kind of a normal formatter called Markdown, and it really helps. I find it really helps when I'm kind of writing a longer area and I kind of want to bullet things or put things in lists, or I want to bold something. I've loved Markdown the last month or two that it's been out. The other thing that came out of what we did, what was called an innovation week in the dev team, where the developers could work on whatever they wanted of their choosing. And so Markdown was a product of that. The other thing that was a product of it was just huge optimizations with our search. So for example, right now I just search for the word part, but I could even do things like I could do a misspelling and it'll still show part presentation, which it could do before. But this is great for topics, right? Because you can put a topic in, and then you get this relevancy score over here, how close things are. And so our searching capabilities have really, they've just become a lot smarter. And you don't have to get things exactly. And we've embedded this technology in a really cool way where now when you're putting an improvement in and you start writing, the word parts, you can see things that are similar to what you're about to submit. And so I saw this kind of 5 badge come up. I hover over it, and boom, I can see part presentations is there. I can go in and drill in to get the details. I can't tell you, but this is actually already saved. I mean, we use KaiNexus internally, as I'm sure you guys all know. This has probably saved 2 or 3 duplicate improvements that I put in the system because this little indicator comes up and I go, oh, what was in there? And half the time I was the one that put the improvement in there, but I try not to let my team know that, but that's neither here nor there. But that's a hugely requested thing. It took a ton of work to be able to do that. I think we'd implement it in a really elegant way here.
Yeah, in addition to the benefits to the search capabilities within the platform, to pull this off, we had to optimize the database, and so what you'll notice is that you'll see a lot of performance gains, meaning the platform will operate a lot faster now due to this functionality that we introduced. So,
cool. So you are obviously everyone here knows you're already on the newest release. We have another release that is being cooked up in the kitchen, if you will, as we speak, and there's some really exciting things that are going to go out with that. Let me hop back into our PowerPoint. Of course, if you have any questions for us, let us know. I know that we describe things so well that most of the time people don't have questions, but let me tell you about our next webinar while we have a couple minutes here. Mark Graven, as everyone knows, is our VP of Innovation and Improvement Services. He leads our webinar series. What I love about what he does is he picks about 2/3 of the webinars throughout the year. We try to do about 1 a month, are just about continuous improvement concepts in general. And then about 1/3 we're kind of highlighting customers, or we're talking about more product-specific things. But this is a really interesting one. I've reviewed the content that Mark is going to be presenting. If you really want to know more about metrics and know more about kind of the lean thinking behind some of the charts that kind of heavy lean shops, if you will use, then I would highly recommend this webinar and sign up for it. Just reviewing with Mark, I was teaching him ways, some of the things he was talking about could be viewed in KaiNexus, but I was learning a lot more. He was really getting into some deeper things. So highly recommend it. Of course, you can just sign up for it at kainexus.com/webinars. And please check out our resources. If you haven't seen our blog or read about our blog, not only do we have an improvement blog, but we also have a customer blog. We're putting a lot of time and energy. We think this is really important as a company to invest in. The mission of our company is to spread continuous improvement. And we know we can do that best in organizations that are utilizing KaiNexus to do that, but we know not everyone utilizes KaiNexus, and that doesn't mean we don't want to be helping those organizations out and being part of the community. We're getting a lot of guest blog post writers. We're transforming our blog into even more of a podcast if you'd rather listen to things on your commute. So please check that out. It's also one of the great pieces of feedback I get about our blog is that it helps kind of PI coaches from a content perspective, because they'll say they read our blog, and then if there's a concept that they wanted to teach their organization, boom, they can immediately send it out and say, hey, check out this blog that KaiNexus wrote. This is another way to think through what we were talking about last week. And of course, when you're on the website, take a look at all of the webinars we've given are accessible there. You can watch them as well. And so we've got, I would probably say, upwards of about 50 or 60 webinars now. Mark and I have been doing this for a number of years, so please check out all of our resources there. Of course, this is all the ways to get in contact with us. We've given our email addresses as well, and this has been a lot of fun. We're going to be doing updates quarterly, so this is our fall update, so look for probably a spring or I should say a winter updates here in the next several months, whenever winter ends. In Texas, we'd never really know when winter starts, so it's difficult.
And thanks, Greg. And just to recap, a lot of the features that we went through today have to be enabled for you. So if there's any interest in getting any of those configured and turned on, please don't hesitate to reach out to myself through support@kainexus.com, and we'll get those configured and enabled for you.
Thank you so much, everyone. And there's no better time than today to continue to spread continuous improvement.